Cool. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa. In case you weren't here last Thursday, I work at the Housing Authority during the day. I met some of you guys for what I do in the evenings. So today we're going to focus on housing. So we did a presentation last Thursday. If you couldn't come, it was about finances. And the reason we taught about that first was because it's going to catapult us into housing. Essentially, you guys are on programs. You can be in. Well, let me ask you some questions. With the programs that you're on, is 24 the age limit before you're on your own? Or will you have assistance after 24 years old? No?
Just
24 is it? Okay, so what we gotta do is, what I'm here to do is basically help inspire thought about what we're gonna do after 24. So the time to start planning is now. The time to start looking into what your options are is now. That way when 24 comes, I don't know about you, I procrastinated a lot when I was about 24. It sucks. So I don't want you to have to be in a situation to where 24 comes, if we don't have things taken care of, we might lose housing or, something bad might happen. God forbid that happen. So basically, we're gonna go over a few things. The first thing for us, since I represent the Housing Authority, this is our mission statement. It's improving the quality of life for low-income residents of Kern County by providing safe, affordable housing and assistance residents towards self-sufficiency and homeownership. Blah, a lot of stuff, right? Now, a lot of our employees, unfortunately, if you have a caseworker at the Housing Authority, you might know it's kind of hard to get a hold of us. Because we have, I think right now, we're helping somewhere along 30,000 families in Kern County, and we still have at least another 16,000 on the wait list. So there's a huge need for housing. That's why, good morning. There's a couple seats up here, or wherever you'd like. Just so you know, there's a huge need. So today, I encourage you to take some notes, ask some questions, and then I'll grab your info before we leave, just so that you know what your options are when your time comes, so that you can skip those 16,000 people. I'm gonna give you a couple of hints and a couple of things that probably, I'm gonna say indirectly on how you can find a couple ways to skip that 16,000 people wait line, okay? And so it is because what we wanna do is not just provide some kind of place for you to stay, we want you to have quality of life, right? We want you to not just, live, maybe if you live in apartments, think bigger, think more. Family self-sufficiency. I'm going to touch on that big time today, because if you were here on Thursday, you heard me talk about dreams. One of the things I'm a huge proponent of is not staying in government housing the rest of your life, but to dream bigger and go after what you've dreamt of and what you feel can be impossible, and show everybody that they're wrong. One of the things, I'm grateful to this, my mom, she was in low-income housing and she met my dad at the Housing Authority. Funny little story how things work out, but anyway, through the Housing Authority they met each other, they got married, and she was able to get out of housing and created this life for herself that she never thought was possible, but it all started with the Housing Authority. So these same options that my family had are available to you, and we're going to talk about a couple of those things, okay? So there's various programs within the Housing Authority. There's like 20 different programs, but the three I want to focus on with you guys first is the project-based housing, which some of you guys know. Low-income housing, I don't want to talk about that too much. That's living in the projects. That wait list is at least 7 years. So if you were to apply right now for low-income housing, you'll be on the wait list for at least 7 years until your name comes up, just to see if you qualify for housing. That sucks. But it's available in case you want to apply now, for in 7 years you might be ready. Another thing is Section 8. So since from 2007 until now, Section 8 was open 1 month. And in that 1 month, we had over 12,000 families that applied for assistance. So I've been at my department where we do the intake, and I know some of you guys from intake, what we do is we've only gotten through about 4,000 families since 2007, right? So you can just take a look and figure out for yourself. It's going to be a long time before we get through everyone on that wait list, and this is open again. So that's why I want to talk to you more about project-based housing and how you can take advantage of these programs that are set in place to bypass everyone that's waiting. And the last thing, I'm not going to touch too much on this, but VAWA, that means Violence Against Women Act. So I pray this is not anybody in this room, but if you are ever a victim of domestic violence, or anyone who is a victim of domestic violence, There are programs that help with discretion so that we don't put business out there. It's really handled by someone higher than me in the authority that helps you to come in and expedite housing. But you know, you have to have a very unfortunate and severe circumstance to go through that. That's why I hope it's not you. So just a couple things. There's pros and cons of government housing, which can be like building blocks, Section 8, whatever we do. So I want to touch on these real quick. Some of the pros: assistance with rent. So when you come in for housing, our goal is to provide you with a place, first of all, where that has good standards of living, but also where you have to pay the minimum rent and we pay the maximum of rent, right? So that's what, like if you're in building blocks, that's what we do. I make sure that I get you the lowest amount of rent and that we as the government are paying the most. Sounds awesome, right? The con to that is that your rent is based off of your income. So if all you receive is like food stamps, guess what? You know, we're not going to help out with too much. If you can be over income too, if we say that, oh, you're self-sufficient, you make enough money, you're not going to qualify for a program. So we're trying to target the families in between that might not have any help. A second thing is your caseworker is your liaison. So all we ask you to do is fill out a packet. I don't know if any of you guys have gone through the housing process, but you literally just fill out a packet, give us your information, and we qualify you. We do all the paperwork. We do a lot of stuff. The only con to that is you have to report everything. I just want to give a shout out. I did this last week. Edgar, out of everyone that I've met in these programs, is on top of it. You know, and I share with my caseworkers, he's constantly turning in everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy, I have papers from him every 2 weeks. But rather than get in trouble for not turning in something, I'd rather have all of his stuff than him not report anything at all. So thank you for what you do, for being prudent. So that's the only con to that, is that if we find that you're not reporting income, that someone's staying in the household that shouldn't be there, you know, there's so many bases for getting terminated. I personally wrote 6 termination letters that we send out. You can get terminated for anything. So that's the only con, is you do have to go through some loops, but it's as easy as just filling out some paperwork and you're good. Okay? The other thing is scholarships. So you guys, if you're in building blocks, I hope you know that you're able to qualify for some scholarships with our agencies. The other program, what's it called? For the 21 and older?
THP Plus.
THP Plus. I don't know if this might be available to you. You should check with DHS. But if you're through building blocks, you're able to get scholarships that we award once a month. The only caveat to that is that the amounts may vary. Because sometimes we have a ton of applicants, which means smaller amounts of scholarship money is granted out. But if there's less people than apply, then they give them by the thousands of dollars, you know, and so you have that available to you if you're taking part of one of our programs. I say building blocks just to start off with, but I'm going to go back to that in a few minutes with the other programs. Housing quality standards. Basically, we set the bar pretty high for what your place needs to have, what it needs to look like, what has to be there so that you can live there with your family, by yourself, whatever it may be. So the caveat to that is, sorry, I skipped over various programs. So here you have a lot of programs that you get to participate in, right? Like either community service, stuff that might help you out. What we have is many programs that help you to save money, programs that help you to get jobs, programs that help you to have more clothing, all sorts of programs. The caveat to that is that not all of the projects have programs. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and the resources you have available. The housing quality standards, like I said, we have a high quality standard. We're making sure that when you're in one of our programs, no one's screwing you over for rent. No one's trying to be a slumlord and put you in just anywhere. You know, we want to make sure that you have a good place to live. The caveat to that is that you have to make a 1-year commitment. I have a client who I tell everyone, if you have some kind of voucher, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, but when you can actually have some control over where you get to go, you have to be sure of where you're moving to. Because I had a client that she decided, oh, I really like this place. I said, go there in the morning, go there in the evening, go there at like 3 in the morning, know where you're going to live. She was like, yeah, didn't really listen to me. Well, she made a 1-year commitment, signed the lease to move into a unit. There was a drive-by. And so literally her husband and her 13-year-old son were outside barbecuing at the apartment. There was a drive-by. Her son was at feet of where the last bullets hit before they hit the ground. She comes to the housing authority. She says, I need to go. Like, there was a drive-by by my house this weekend. And I said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do because you made a 1-year commitment. And that's one of the caveats, is that if you're going to come into one of the areas or one of the programs where you have a choice where to go, it's nice to be able to live where you want, but the other side is you have to know where you're going and what you're getting into, because some areas just aren't safe. And once you do that, you have a 1-year commitment that you have to stay somewhere. And so that's what I want to just educate you, and maybe throw some statements out there so you can know what to look out for. Family self-sufficiency, that's one of my favorite things that I'm going to talk to you about today, and the many ways that you can take advantage of this. So family self-sufficiency, what that means is that we want you guys to take as much advantage as you can of the programs that we have available to you. Family self-sufficiency, what they do, let's say has anyone ever heard of project-based housing before, other than what I just mentioned? No? Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, because what it is, project-based housing, it's apartments that housing authority has. If, say, you go live there for 1 year, what happens is after the year, you get a voucher and you can go search for wherever you want. So you're not stuck just in the building blocks, apartment complex, or wherever you might be. And there's various places where you just have to make a 1-year commitment to live in these apartments, and after that we help you to transition to look for whatever you want. Now, when you're in one of these programs, you can be in family self-sufficiency, which means is we don't want you to be always on government housing. I personally want to encourage you to do much more than that, so that you don't have to be reporting your income every time you get $1 more at your job. You don't have to go report that to somebody else. You don't have to, be mindful of how many people you have over. You don't have to constantly ask permission for stuff. This is helping you to be out on your own and live your own dreams and what you want to do. And so family self-sufficiency, what that does is it's a program that says, okay, let's take Edgar. I'm going to take you because I know your name. So Edgar says, I want to apply for family self-sufficiency. So as the worker, I say, okay, Edgar, you have to give me 5 goals, and you have 5 years to meet your goals. So let's say part-time job, I want a forklift license, I want a typing certificate, I want blah, blah, blah. You just name 5 goals that you want. So let's say, all right, your rent is $600. Edgar, your portion's $200. We're paying $400 of your rent. Cool, right? So instead of your rent money just going to me, the landlord, or whoever, what housing authority does is it puts it in a separate account that's earning high interest. You guys that came to the class, you know about interest, right? And so what this account does, it just pretty much saves the money that you pay in rent in this account. It's earning money on top of your money. At the end of the 5 years, if you accomplish all of your goals, or as soon as you accomplish them, all that money that you've been paying in rent is yours. And so what I've seen families do is they use that down payment for a home, and people buy cars. That's what I've seen people that graduate the program. I'll actually show you. Look, this is one of the families, and so you know, they bought a house. Can you imagine yourself living in something that big? Look at how many windows there are up here. How many there are over here? That's like a 3-car garage. You can have this, guys. Like, really, your dreams, you can put yourself in a position to take advantage of what the government has for you. Start saving and educating yourself now on what you got to do, and you can have something like this too. It's available. You just got to take advantage of these programs or ask some questions. We'll have room for that. But, I asked you, can you see yourself in a house like this? Can you see yourself in a better neighborhood than where you're at? Can you see yourself having a job, or even better than where you're at right now? Can you see yourself having a family and being able to have more freedom than the bounds and the guides that you have now? If you can, let's talk after, because we got to make sure that we put you in a position to where you're going to make the best life for yourself possible and not be limited to, what we have now. Where you're at, it's a good start, but don't be stuck there forever, right? Dream big, prove everyone wrong, right? Do great things with your life. Man, I love this stuff, you know. But anyway, so that's what family self-sufficiency do, is we want to make you self-sufficient so you're not dependent on the government. Ooh, that feels good. We used to be on government assistance, but it feels way better being my own boss and doing whatever I want to do versus what the government tells me I can or can't do. It's great. So anyway, we'll go back to that in just a second. This one's, oh, that was actually, okay, so as far as the housing programs, that's basically all I wanted to show you guys. Now, I brought a few packets. Does anyone in here, have you ever considered living in one of our housing areas?
I've already signed up for it like a long time ago.
So for what?
I was actually working, I don't know, like I went through the TAPE program, if you know that.
I do.
Alright, and they had me working for Housing Authority.
Okay.
At the Ruben Blunt Apartments, over there in Arvin, or Lamont, kind of, right there by Sunset Middle School.
Uh-huh.
It's like right next door. It's Housing Authority still. And I was working for them, and I just signed up today.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. That's one of the many programs. I'm going to talk to you specifically about project-based units. So we have, does anyone ever heard of the Residents of West Columbus? I know someone had mentioned that earlier. Okay, so that's one of the programs. We have several.
They're really nice houses, like hands down, like looks like rich people should live there. And there's not rich people living there. It's crazy. And like when their ACs go out, you guys are on top of it. Like there's like an AC guy there that day or in the morning. Like it has to be. It doesn't matter if it's a weekday, holiday, nothing. Like it's legit. You guys are good on your stuff.
It is legit. So like, can you imagine that living somewhere? There's also another program that's called NSP. What that is, you can rent a home. That's crazy, right? Can you imagine for the same price that you're renting an apartment, you can go rent a home? Have you ever considered, does anybody want to like live in a home instead of an apartment? That's legit, right? You know how many barbecues you could have, and you can tell everybody, oh, you just park in front of my lawn, or on my lawn, shoot, right? You're brown like me, we park on the lawn. All right, so I'm gonna share something with you guys real quick. These are really, really thick packets. This is what we pass out when we come to orientation, so you're gonna have a baby orientation. Here, can you pass it please down?
Go ahead.
I have one of those in my collar, actually.
Enjoy.
I don't have enough. Here, can you pass some of these down?
How you feeling back?
A couple of us might have to share. Can you pass? I only have 3 left, so does everyone have one that I can give mine away at the end, or we're going to use these for education purposes because this packet's going to change a little bit. Okay, so when you come in, project-based housing, the reason I keep talking about that, I didn't bring in any applications, but I can get your information if you're interested in applying. So there's a little bit of a wait list if you want project-based housing, but that's the one where I told you, you be on a wait list, you live in an apartment for 1 year, and after your year, you get a housing voucher and you can go wherever you'd like and you start searching, right? So the reason I talk about this so much is this is because what's going to help empower you to have a little bit more control over where you live. Now, when you leave, you have 2 options. Let's say you completed your year, you could do one of 2 things. You either transfer units, which means I'm going to go look for wherever I want in the county, or you can port out. Have you ever considered leaving Bakersfield? Leaving California? Guess what? We can help you. It's awesome. Dream big for the first time. If you want to chase after goals and look for stuff out of here, now's the time we start talking about it, okay? So, 2 housing. Transferring, porting. What's a transfer? I just said these 2. What's the difference between transfer and port?
Staying in Bakersfield and then porting is going out.
Very good. Staying in Bakersfield, staying in Kern County, leaving Kern County. Port, port out, right? Okay, so once you have your Section 8, you're going to get a packet that's similar to this, and it has 2 things. So inside the blue packet that you see, it says participant briefing guide. So this is yours. And then there's what's called the owner information guide, okay? We're going to go through all this real quick. So we're going to go through the blue one. first. The first thing you see is your housing rights. So as you're looking for housing, and this can be outside of housing authority as well, you do have rights from California. Everyone who's been in the building blocks program, you've come through, you filled out some stuff, we ran the criminal history on you. As you're searching for homes, I want you to know landlords, any property management companies, whoever you decide to choose to rent from, whether it's with housing authority or not, they get to run credit backgrounds, they get to run criminal history backgrounds, they get to run all sorts of backgrounds. So no, if someone says, I need to know what your criminal history was, like, are you threatening me? Man, I had someone that came to me, she's like, this landlord asked wooty wooty woo, and she went nuts. I was like, that's normal, man. Like, you're okay. So there's a difference between being discriminated and then someone just doing their job. So this will help you to understand the difference between those two. Let's go ahead. The next packet is this. It's a really thick packet that says Section 8 Briefing Certification. If you'll go over, don't worry about the first 2 pages, go to the third one. It says Things You Should Know. This is for any program that we go to. What you gotta know is that we're here to help you with housing only. We're not here to do anything more than that. My neighbor parked in front of my yard. I can't do anything. I've literally had someone come up to me and say, like, I live in a house that's infested with roaches. I'm sorry, are you on Section 8? No, I can't do anything. The landlord charged me $100 in rent. I can't do anything. You know, so we basically are here to help you find housing and to pay as low price as possible when you're coming in. Those are the things you should know. Go ahead and go to the next page where it says Goals and Review. Now, I don't know if any of you guys like reading. There's a ton of information here. I'm just going to skip through the main parts because I'm not the biggest fan of reading. It says Section 8 Program Goals. Now, I talked about Section 8 being a long wait list, but if you go through one of our apartment complexes that's project-based housing, you go through that for a year so that you can get Section 8 and go where you want. I've said that a few times now. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if it makes sense out loud. Do you guys understand? No? Yes? Just a little head nod, kind of? Alright, I got a kind of from White Sox here. Yeah, kind of. Okay. I'll go through that just a little bit later, but basically, we are government housing. We're trying to get you government assistance so that you can have freedom to go places. That's what our goal in our review is. Go ahead and go to the page after that, where it says Voucher Description. Now, let's say that it's just you. You obviously can only get a 1-bedroom. Let's say you have some children, you know, like here. So based off of the amount of people that you have in your household, we can give you more bedrooms. Makes sense, right? And so, say if you're married, like, you can add, once you get Section 8, you can have like a roommate, or you can, so more people can apply. You can add more people to your voucher. We just can't just add whoever to your household. But anyway, what this is saying is that the number of bedrooms that we give you is based off of the amount of people in your household. Okay? And so as you start growing your family, or, you know, thinking about the future, just know that you have options and your household size can increase as you go along. Let's go ahead and go another page. Family obligations. I think all you guys know this. What this basically says is that if you want some housing through us, you just have to follow all the rules and fill out all the paperwork that we send you. Alright, you can read through that on your own. Go ahead and go over another page. 1, 2. Go ahead and go over 2 pages where it says owner obligations. So, here's the thing. We're going to stop right there for just a second. Since you're dealing with owners, has anyone lived on their own?
I'm living on my own right now.
You are? Okay, cool. Do you think it's easier to go through like Samantha and Building Blocks people to pay your rent and to get something done, or is it easy to go through a owner or a landlord?
To be honest with you, living on my own, because it took me forever to find the right rent I like. I have really cheap rent right now.
Cool.
It took forever to find that. My rent used to be like $850. Yeah, you used to want to be in your program. Now it's kind of like, you know, like I kind of don't need it, but you know, I could use it. You know, It is a like little bump, but I think it's easy. I mean, I don't think it's hard. I mean, sometimes it could be frustrating with a landlord, Because I mean, they can do some shady stuff to you because you don't know all your rights. I mean, that's a huge pamphlet right there. I mean, nobody knows that in the back of their head. But I think going through a program or something like this would probably be more of a thought process and be better, so you can live on your own and don't have to pay to a landlord or even think about a landlord getting the upper hand on you. Or sometimes I think they're supposed to like upgrade their housing and they don't.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I mean, stuff like this, you guys have to be up to date because you guys are worked by the government. If you guys didn't, it'd be a lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, what's your name again? I forgot. Isaiah. What were you gonna share?
Property management, because I have a house and I go through property management. It's like, you tell them something's broken, like right now, my AC, I have an AC in a swamp cooler. I told them like 2 weeks ago that it was broken and they died. So it's like, their property management is like, it's hard to get in contact with them. They say they gotta put a work order, sometimes it takes up to a month. So it kind of sucks sometimes.
So these are the realities. I'm glad we're talking about this because if you haven't lived on your own, once you actually get out there, there's so many pros, but some of the cons is that you're dealing with landlords and they have obligations. So now's the time to know your rights, guys. You really, as consumers, have so much power over people. You're paying others to live somewhere, so they have some obligations they have to live up to. If you're in one of our properties, that's where we come in. Let's say you were one of my clients and that didn't get fixed. Well, guess what? We investigators, the inspectors go out, boom, they make stuff happen right away. And these people don't want to lose out on free money, so these owners, they have obligations that they also have to meet. And it hurts a landlord when if you stop paying them rent, they fix everything right away. So just know you have a lot of control over where you live and just know your rights. You can use that on them. As soon as you start using your rights, well, it says right here that you have to this and this and this. I've seen it happen so many times. Landlords hop on it because they treat us like we don't know anything. It's crazy how disrespectful people can be. All you need to know is know what your rights are. Go through a one-liner. I promise you people react to that stuff. Alright, so it's good that you share about that. Thanks, guys. Let's go ahead and go to the next page where it says fraud. Ooh, big one. So guess what? I think every week I personally withdraw at least 2 families that commit fraud. So fraud is not reporting income. So that's like, there's one lady, no names. She was making about $46,000 a year, and she said that all she was receiving was food stamps. Oh, poor baby. She didn't report her income. She was terminated from the program like that. So there's all sorts of fraud that happens. We have people that use false socials. We have all sorts of incredible fraud. Basically, we're just asking you to follow the rules because sooner or later we find out, and it's better to just be clear and just be honest from the beginning so that we can expedite your housing instead of having to take it away in the future, okay? Let's go ahead and go to the next page. The term of voucher. Alright, we already talked about this. Once you get your voucher, you have to stick somewhere for 1 year. Basically, after the year, you can go anywhere. So when you get a voucher, you have to go look for places. So I think the trend right now, I don't know if you've ever looked for housing, but a lot of people go on like Craigslist or they'll go online like cheap rent or places to rent. Guys, when you have a voucher, you really have to get on your feet and start looking for places. That means, I don't know if you have to hop on a bike, ask someone for a ride. There's so many places around town that will rent, so many that don't. So basically, you have a certain amount of days where you have to find someone who's going to rent to you, and we take care of the rest. But you're there for 1 year. If you're able to work somewhere, if you don't find housing within the time that we give you, you're terminated from assistance. That's it. And then you have to go through the process all over again, which we don't want you to do. And we'll work on that. And for those of you that are interested in this type of housing and you want to move forward, we'll work with you one-on-one. But all the vouchers have term dates. You just want to find housing before it expires, okay? Let's go to the next one. You can skip over 2 of them. Portability. 2 pages after that one, it says portability procedures. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but let's say you want to leave Kern County. Let's say you want to go to Fresno or Sacramento or Nevada, whatever it is, right? So in order for you to leave Kern County, I'm probably not going to be your worker. You literally fill out one piece of paper with the information of where you want to go, and we take care of everything else so that you can go anywhere within the United States that has housing. So think big. You're not limited to where you can go. And let me tell you right now, it's so cheap to live in Bakersfield. This is probably one of the cheapest places to live in. I'd say definitely in California and probably the United States, other than a few other places. But let's say you really want to go check out like Housing Authority, and most of my clients leave to Santa Monica or they leave to Nevada. Those are the two most places that people go to. Let's say you want to go to Nevada. Or even Santa Monica. It's more expensive to live out by the beach, so just know while you have the ability to go anywhere within the United States that you want, also know it's a little more expensive to go out there. Is anybody driving here? Anybody? Okay, how much is gas? How much is a gallon of gas?
Like $4.
$4 here in Bakersfield?
It's like
I drive diesel?
it's like 3 something.
It's 3 something. It's a little cheaper than.
I only get Chevron or Shell gas, but I mean, that's just me. I don't put water in my tank. I have a brand new car.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Like that high octane stuff?
yeah.
Alright, cool. So for the rest of us that are on a budget,
Yeah, it's like
Right.
340, I think, like maybe.
it's $3.40. I fill up at Food Co. That's
Oh, you got the like membership, right?
no, not even. I fill up at Food Co. So like, I don't know if you're a thrift shopper like me, but does anybody else pay less than $3.50 a gallon? How much is gas?
$3.18 at Fast Trip at my place.
$3.18 at Fast Trip? What else?
I don't know, like 317.
$3.17? About? Okay. I travel to LA every weekend on business, not here what I do on the side. Gas right now in Ventura is $4.75. That's not even one of the beach cities. Imagine going further south.
It was,
Oh wait, that is a beach city. I forgot. That's the other way. So when I went to Santa Monica a couple months ago, this was back in June when I was working in Santa Monica on the show, gas was $4.89 a gallon, and that was 2 months ago. It's crazy. So just know the prices of stuff, while you can go anywhere you want, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So consider that if you do want to leave Kern County, okay? So let's go ahead and go to a different page. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 pages over. I'm not going to touch on this, but if you've ever felt that you're a victim of discrimination for any reason, you have so many resources and so many rights that you can read through that. All right, let's go ahead and go over a couple of different pages. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages over. All right, now we're going to get into the Spanish portion of this presentation. Ha sido usted víctima de discriminación en la vivienda. Just kidding, we're not going to do this in Spanish, just kidding.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 pages over. It looks like a letter. It says, "Dear participant," okay? So I'm not going to touch too much on this because it is kind of a touchy subject and it's very private. But like I said, the VAWA program, Violence Against Women Act, it's not limited to women, it's also men. If for some reason you've ever been, or you are a victim of domestic violence, or you know somebody, please give them this piece of paper. Tell them to go to the Housing Authority, or if it's anyone in this room. I don't know what the statistics are, but typically I have at least one, and my classes are anywhere between like 8 people and more. There's always at least one person that's been a victim of domestic violence, so just know this is what we can do to help out with those cases with discretion. And you have so many rights, so we'll go ahead and help you out, and that's just more information on that program, okay? Let's go ahead and go over. We're almost done. 1, 2. Leasing of a unit. 2 pages over. I just want you guys to know, if you do decide to go through one of our programs and you're looking for somewhere to live, what we're going to do is, one of my colleagues, her job is to make sure that you turn in information for somewhere that you want to live. We not only try to qualify you for the least amount of rent possible, we're going to try to give you as many deductions as possible, right? Just give you as much credits as possible for kids, for disabilities, for what you're paying, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into explaining everything, but we're making sure that you're not getting screwed over for your rent, and also that the places that you're looking at are shady. I'm gonna talk about some of the shady things we found in the set. Did you have a question?
Yeah, what's the minimum income you guys accept, like monthly?
Zero.
No, like, I'm saying like, to make, yeah, the maximum income, that's right.
It depends on your household. So let's say if it's one person, it's like,
I'm saying it's like 7.
if it's 7, you're looking at somewhere above 65,000.
A year? I'm talking about a month. 'Cause you say we gotta turn in paperwork every
Mm-hmm.
month, so what's the minimum of the monthly?
Divide 65 something by 12, whatever that is. So basically, the standards are really high for you to not qualify for housing. If you have a job that's minimum wage or something like that, don't worry about not qualifying. You have to make a lot of money to be over income. And like the more people you have in your household, the higher it is. So right now, let's say a 1-person household, you have to make like 32,600 something a year to not qualify. It's really high, right? More than most of us make, so don't worry about that. We'll cross that once we get there. Okay, one of the things I want to talk about real quick, for anyone, if you've never lived on your own, or if you're through one of the projects, one of the things we don't help out with is a security deposit, right? So I don't know if you know about that. So let's say you find somewhere great outside of this neighborhood that you want to go. They found this great 1-bedroom studio. So the landlord says, okay, your rent's only going to be like $550 a month. Well, that's within our budget, no big deal, right? So they say, now you have a security deposit, which is an additional like $500. Okay, where am I going to get that money from? Oh, and then you also have to pay first and last month's rent. Whoa, suddenly the amount that we need to save for, it's a little bit out of our means. The reason I want to touch on that real quick is for those of you that want to leave your current situation, if you have any money, start saving it now. You never know when you'll be ready to leave. You never know if you'll have an emergency. Whatever money, even if it's like $20 a check or $20 a month, just start saving your money now so that it can really catapult you and help you out if you want to do something to be on your own. Okay, and that's something we talked about in our last class, right? When's the time to start saving? Now. And so we can talk about that a little bit later. If you have questions on money and stuff, I also help with that too. But you really just want to make sure, like finances, money, that can really stress people out, right? That can help you to qualify for a unit. That can really dictate whether you're going to go after those goals that I told you about. Money is ridiculous, so you can make it work in your favor, or it can be something that weighs you down and works against you. I say make it work for you. Just start saving money now, a little bit, whatever it is. Start saving now. So let's go ahead and go over a couple of pages. Does anybody know what lead is? It says here, watch out for lead-based paint. Does anybody know what lead is? No? Okay, lead is a silent killer, so it's an element, but it was used in paint a lot before 1978. So what we do is we have to ensure that wherever you go live does not have lead-based paint. If you inhale this stuff, you could die. It's serious. Just like the paint within your walls, how dumb is that, right? So you need to look out for wherever you're moving to, if they have good paint, because lead, if you inhale it long term, something can happen. Alright, go ahead and go over another page, annual examinations. You guys probably know about that. Let's go ahead and we'll stop right here. So now I'm going to ask you, close the blue packet and go over to the yellow one. You can skip that green one. A good place to live. It's the second packet in the yellow, or the second stapled one in the yellow packet. Alright, whether you are gonna be in the housing authority or not, I encourage you read up on housing, and this is where, has anyone heard the term slumlord before?
Yeah.
Slumlord? No? Nobody? Okay, a slumlord is someone who tries to rip you off and give you a really crappy place to stay and doesn't care about stuff. They'll try to get away with the minimum. We have a lot, and so the reason that we give this packet that's a good place to live is because this is what constitutes. If you're gonna go rent somewhere and they say it's a 1-bedroom, this is what it means to have a bedroom, what it means to have a kitchen. Everything's defined in here. When I was in college, I lived in a place and they said it was a 4-bedroom house. But the 4th bedroom where I lived, it wasn't a bedroom. It was just a giant room with no closet, no door. It had a bathroom. You could do laundry in there. But it was just a big room with tiles. And like it had a sink. That's not a bedroom. So what this says, if you open up just to the first page, it says a living room. In order for a living room to be a living room, it must have a ceiling, it must have walls, it must have blah, blah, blah. It tells you what everything should have. I know this is a lot of reading, but as you get more serious about being on your own, I encourage you to read up on this stuff because you don't want to be taken advantage of. And there's so many people who are so hungry to take your rent money, what you worked hard for, what you've earned. They just want that money. They're willing to throw you anywhere. Unfortunately, I've seen it happen over and over again to my clients. And man, it sucks. There's some evil people in this world that don't care about where we go. And so this is just a little guide to help you not be taken advantage of when you're looking for places, okay? Let's go ahead and go over a packet. You have the lead-based paint. We'll skip that one. There's another one that says sample on it. You can skip that one. Inspection form. All right, check this out. This is really cool. This is what the inspectors use when they're looking at units. Oh, inspection, that sounds boring, right? This is the cool thing about inspection, I'm gonna tell you right now. We have super high standards, again, to make sure you live in an awesome place where things aren't falling apart and stuff like that. So, check this out. There's a bunch of landlords. I had one client that said, oh my gosh, there's bugs in my unit. I was like, well, it passed inspection. What do you mean? She's like, oh, no, there's bugs now, blah, blah, blah. So what happened was, when one of our inspectors went, he took pictures of everything that was wrong. The unit failed its inspection. So they had to take care of the bugs, and so bugs went away for a little bit, but they eventually came back. So what our inspectors do is that initially when you're moving in, they want to make sure that things aren't wrong. They're checking all the plugs with the GFI connector to make sure that there's power running. Something as simple as this is what they found. You see these light fixtures? These are fine. Even if you look at the lights above you, these are nice and clean. If you look at places as you're renting, there's a bunch of them, like where especially when the lights are like, you know, in the ceiling, just like these, not ones that have like a fan or something coming out. What you're gonna want to look for, and this is what the sample inspection does to just bring some awareness. There's so many places with pictures I see where there's like dots all over the lights. You know what that is? That's cockroach poop. All these little dots and little orange and yellow spots, that's usually rodents like rats or mice or cockroach feces. This is the stuff you want to look out for when you're on your own, whether it's housing authority or not. You think about it. These little bugs and rodents, they're attracted to heat, extreme heat or extreme cold, right? They survive everything. So you want to look at stuff like that. I've seen so many pictures from the inspectors of bed bugs. They're disgusting. Google bed bugs when you have a chance. Not right now. You know, the cockroach stuff, all these things. That's what you want to look out for. If you're looking for somewhere to live, let's say you want to be on your own, just any apartment, and you want to go check it out, look at the toilet. If a toilet has rings on it, it means it hasn't been flushed in some time, and little ringworms can start forming just out of the water. It's crazy, like the nasty things that people don't pay attention to. I know this is the gross part of the presentation, but what this does is an inspector literally goes around and checks everything. If you go past the first page, I'm sorry, the second, you go 2 pages over on the back side, you see there's like a checkoff list. This whole packet are things that they're checking off to make sure that you and your family don't live in infestation, that you don't live in a place that's garbage. They literally check off everything. Yes, it passed. No, it didn't. If one thing failed, you can't move in, right? But if it's non-life threatening, they'll work with you to make sure things get taken care of so that you can move in as soon as possible. But anyways, I guarantee you, outside of the housing authority, not everyone is looking out for your best interest or really cares about the standards of where you're living. So I'm just saying, personally, whether it's us or whether you search on your own, raise your standards, have them high, and know that people are willing to help you out and want to give you a great quality to live in. You just got to find the right people to work with, right? And so this is just a complete list of what the inspectors are looking out for. And if project-based housing, I've been talking about that, which is one of our apartment complexes. They're up to par. What's your name? Tanner. Tanner said it earlier. Like, they're nice places, right?
They're really nice. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the places at all.
Not the low-income housing. I would not encourage you to go there, but our other project-based, which is the voucher housing.
Yeah, they're even
That's
out.
it.
They're out there fixing like. All right, so when you put a new house in, like, it's gonna sit and it's gonna crack, like, because it's setting in because of brand new houses. Like, they're out there fixing the cracks in the wall. Like, sometimes I'd be like mad at some of the jobs they did, but when you look at it later in the day, like, they want the houses to stay nice. Like, that makes sense. Like, I don't know if you guys seen houses crack outside. They actually do crack. And they're actually out there fixing the image so it stays the image and stays nice and stays looking good. I think you guys even do your lawns too, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Free lawn service. I'm gonna cut your lawn for free. You don't have to do it.
The
That's
grass
awesome.
is like super green. Sprinklers are not even broken. Nothing.
I have a friend, he works in maintenance, and someone complained about there being a beehive in their house. So he had to go remove the beehive. This poor guy, he shook the beehive or something, so one bee came out and then a bunch came out. He fell off the roof trying to protect his family from a beehive. Literally, the maintenance people, our staff is trying to go the extra mile to take care of you. And so I can't stress that enough. Like, really, we're here to serve you. For those of you that are in the program, if we've ever been one of your guys' caseworkers and you can't get a hold of us, I apologize. It's just we have so many families to help out. It's difficult to have a one-on-one relationship. That's why I enjoy these dialogues that we have. So pretty much this is going to conclude our housing, but what I want to ask is if anyone is interested in knowing more how you can come apply for one of our units where you just have to commit for 1 year and then you can get a voucher to go anywhere. I have a sign up sheet here. Just come tell me what you're interested in applying for. If you want some information that you don't want to ask everyone out loud, I'm here for you. I'm working directly with Samantha to make sure you guys are taken care of. And just hit me up. All right? Cool. So thank you so much for coming, guys. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.